Hey everyone, this is Craig Morgan, co-founder of Blended Together Forever with my wife Gina, and I have a very special podcast guest with us today, James McLamb from Generation Youth. This is going to be a rich 20 to 25 minutes with not only questions and interactions that we'll share, but content that you can utilize for not only you, but also for your family. James, first of all, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about you, your family, and tell us a little bit about Generation Youth and how you got with them and what you're doing. And then we'll go through a few questions that I've got for us today.
Well, thank you so much for your time, your invitation to be here. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you care enough about what we do to invite us to be a part of your community. That means a lot to us as well. I am James McLamb. I'm the founder and CEO of Generation Youth. I'm a husband of 31 years to my beautiful bride, Melissa. We just celebrated 31 years back in September of 2023. We have three children, a 23-year-old, a 20, and a 13-year-old. So we are right in the middle of the youth world. Generation Youth was originally formed as a company called Generation Ziegler. Now, we formed that company to take Mr. Zig Ziglar, the legendary Mr. Zig Ziglar's content, and repackage it, reform it to deliver to youth. We felt strongly that he had content, he had a mission, he had a purpose on his life, a calling on his life to help people see hope. And we felt a whole new generation needed that. And not only that, Craig, but we interviewed 2,500 youth from across the nation, asking them what the biggest issues they thought they faced. And once we got those answers, we categorized them and we found three major categories, which are self-image, they struggle with relationships, and they struggle with goals. Well, if anyone is familiar with Zig Ziglar, they will recognize that in the 60s, well over 50 years ago, the man identified steps that he said you can get to find that hope in life, find that success. And the first three in order were self-image, relationships, and goals. Now, we did not put the answers into his solutions. There was just that commonality. And I think it just showed the brilliance of him. So that's what we were doing. Over the last 3 years, we've transitioned from being just focused on his content to a little bit more of our own. And therefore, the rebranding of Generation Youth, where we focus on not only providing leadership and personal development for young people, but providing training for adults to help them empower youth in the form of a youth coaching certification and other products as well. But the primary one now is if you have a desire to empower youth and you want to do it in the way of a youth life coach program, we're the people to come to. We're the athletes to come to. So that's a quick 200,000 mile per hour flyover on what we do and who I am.
I love it. I love it. And for everybody that's listening, James and I did a podcast for our nonprofit Blended Together in the past. So I really am so excited about this one, James, because we're going to talk about the youth. They are the future, and they've got. I've told my wife many a time, I'm glad I feel I'm fortunate to grow up in the era that I grew up in. I said, I didn't face the things that these kids and the youth are faced today. And so, it's just so different. So I think us talking about the youth today is going to be great, whether they live in a nuclear family or like in our family, we blended 7 kids, his, mine, if it's a blended family, or they live with their adopted family or grandma, whatever, the youth, they're looking for answers. And we're going to talk about that. So let's just dive right into the first one. You mentioned self-image. It's so true. Today, the world is nothing but I got to look good on a social media platform. How many likes do I have on my Instagram following? Is my TikTok video cute where people, let's talk about social media as it relates to the youth. And you're welcome to share whatever your heart, the Lord leads you, from the positives to the dangers to whatever. But let's start there about talking self-image as it relates to the youth in their social media world.
Well, Appreciate that. Social media does have some positive attributes of being able to connect us to a world, being able to see gather different information. But there is no longer a dispute on whether or not social media has an effect on the mental health and self-image of youth. For a long time, people just said, oh, there might be a correlation between the two, that we're seeing the rise of mental health problems, the rise of a deflating in the way that youth view themselves through their self-image, through their identity, and the rise of social media. But there's not a cause and effect. Well, that's no longer being disputed. That there's studies now that are showing this, and some leading sociologists and psychologists are saying, yes, there is a definite cause and effect. And we can see that by a significant increase in reported problems with mental health with youth that started to occur around 2012. We're starting to see more than just a gentle rise, but a astronomical rise in those reported cases. Well, what happened in 2012 or during that time period? Well, two things were very significant that happened. Number one, it was the first era of the rear-facing camera on your phones. So before then, if people wanted to take a picture and they wanted to take a picture itself, they had to flip the thing around and, see the back of the phone and take a picture. But now you could look at yourself in the screen and actually take a picture. And at that same time, that same era, Instagram became more popular, became on the scene, the first really platform that focused mainly on what do you look like? Show us your picture today.
Yeah.
And so those two things combined together changed the way that youth are viewing themselves. And then as we move over now into the newer platforms, we hear TikTok being probably the most popular, currently the most popular one on youth. Now, again, TikTok has a lot of positive things. It can be fun, it can be entertaining, but the single fact that it can be so mesmerizing for youth, that they can get lost in it, that they can look at it for hours and hours upon end and not really gain anything out of the process, and see things that they're not supposed to see at their age. It warps the way that they view themselves, because Craig, youth do not realize, and adults don't realize, when they see these images and they see these videos and they see these posts on the different social media, most often they're seeing what somebody is presenting as their best self, and they're comparing that against their worst self.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at someone and I'm saying, my gosh, that family has great vacations. They have wonderful vehicles. They look like they're happy and go lucky. And my family is just struggling. We can't go anywhere. We can't afford to go, to Walmart, much less to go, international islands somewhere. Oh, my life's a failure. I'm a failure. What they don't realize is that we're comparing someone else's perceived best, and many times it's not even their best, it is a manufactured best, to their daily worst. And as you're constantly pouring that into a young mind that's not fully developed, that has not had the experiences and knowledge to deal with that kind of information and filter it, it really can damage their self-image or how they view themselves, how they relate to one another, and how they feel about life in general. So there are some real dangers of that.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why a lot of the leading social media founders and CEOs do not let their own children own their own apps. That should tell us something.
It does. When I learned that was a breakthrough for me. I have this love-hate relationship. I utilize it for whether it's ministry or business or showing hey, here's a picture of my dogs and my wife and all. But yeah, it's I like what you shared. They're viewing and internalizing that other person's best against their worst, and that's just a disaster recipe.
And there's a stat that came out that said under age 21, do you know how long per day on average they spend on social media?
What is it now? I used to know. I'm sure it's changed.
Some studies are showing as much as 7 hours a day.
Okay.
Now, if that's, I don't think that's active. From my experience, I don't think that's actively scrolling. It could be just it's open, but
Mhm.
they're still showing by the analytics that they're able to connect from phone information and then self-reported about 7 hours a day.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
almost, that's almost a third of your day.
Yeah.
We're not
Let's
even awake much
right.
on that.
Yeah, that's right. Let's talk about the power of associations and the power of disassociations. I learned years ago, my mom, my mom and dad would say, if you hang out with the good kids, that's good. So my mima, she always said, get them in church. That way they're away from mischief. I remember that. So we couldn't do something hard. But obviously, she was trying to get me associated with the right group of people in a right environment that was good for me. And we also know, growing up, that I can hang out with the wrong people in the wrong environment and I'll get those results. How does a youth today dissect that? That's so hard. It's so, I feel
Mhm.
like it's easier for an adult because we've got more life experiences to know, no, I don't need to hang out with that guy. Oh, that would be a good guy to hang. But a youth, I mean, I know me. I was like Mr. People Pleaser in seventh grade. I was tossed to and fro. I wanted everybody to like me. I didn't have the courage, to be honest, to stand up against, even though what I thought would have been bad, I went along with it to an extent. So, how do you help the youth process who to associate with and who not to associate with today?
Well, that's a tough issue to navigate for many different reasons. You desperately want to know where they belong. They desperately want to find, the common term vernacular verbiage is your have you found your tribe? They want to
Yeah,
find their tribe. Where do I fit in? Where do I belong? And if they have very weak self-image, then finding the right tribe is not, they're not going to have the fortitude to be able to resist those negative associations. And if they feel bad about themselves and there is a group of young people that maybe is a negative influence, but they're willing to pull them in, hey, come be a part of us, they'll accept that and they'll go along with it. So, how do we associate and disassociate ourselves with that? That's a hard question to navigate because a lot of times you've young people's friendships and associations are more by proximity than they are by choice.
right.
Who am I around? Who am I forced to be around with? Who am I forced to be around with at my school that I'm assigned to go to, that I'm there? Who if there's not good groups there, do I just be by myself? That's not going to happen. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things of trying to teach them to identify first what a good friend is, what good associations is, and have open and
Okay.
deliberate conversations with them so that they have that mindset of going in. We cannot assume that just by everything that they've been taught, maybe at church or through home or through our families, that they're going to know this instinctively and intuitively. We
Yeah.
have to be conscious about that. I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's in the 8th grade. That is one of the things that she still starts. She goes to a very good private school, good kids there. But every time she talks about, okay, there are these mean girls there or these mean folks there. And so having those conversations to try to find them and then being able to support them as they struggle through that.
Yeah. I got
Parents
a
have to be intentional, Craig. They have
question.
to be
Yeah.
intentionally a part of their lives.
Right. I I'm going to give a specific question, and it could be a one-word answer. I'll tee it up for us. Okay, as people are watching this, they're going to be at different stages of their family. Some are going to have kids that are like in elementary age range. Then others are going to have kids that are middle school type ranges and ages. Then you'll have high school kids. They're ready to leave home and they're ready to go out in the big bad world and make their mark. When you talk about the pressures today of the youth, um, what would be a common pressure um, for a younger child? What would be a common pressure for maybe a middle school? issue in that child, and maybe what would be a common pressure in a high school age range that they're leaving home. I think that would help parents if they know. And I know that's not a magic bullet. I know you can't, but I'm trying to dive deep to say, in this group, what's a common thing? In this group, and then the old one, what's a common in that? How would you answer that, James?
Well, the littles, the younger folks, those who are before school, early elementary school, they really want to know that they have a secure home, that they feel safe.
Yeah.
That's why they rely so much on the parents at that point.
Excellent.
They want an environment that they feel safe in, that they feel loved, that's important to their growth. All these other things about choosing the right friends or being a part of this group or getting a part of this sport, that's secondary to them feeling secure in their home environment. Am I somewhere that I can? You build that first. That's the pressure that they feel.
Yeah.
Because that's why they look to him. That's why when my son, who's 20, when I came home and he was 5 years old, he would meet me at the door with a hug,
Right.
hey, because he wanted to feel secure.
Sure.
Now, as they move in, I'm sorry.
No, go keep going. I was going to say,
well, as they move into that middles area, as they're approaching that middle school area, maybe late elementary, middle school time frames, they're starting to want to know, who am I? They're starting to want to figure that out. So parents are going to have to realize there's going to be less dependence on them, no more of those hugs at the door. But at the same time, they're going to want to rely on their parents to guide them and give them a framework in which to help find their lives, because their brains are just starting to form. There's all these exciting impulses that are out there, and they're trying to figure out, how do I fit into this world? I remember when my youngest first got into the middle school grades, she started talking about different groups, the preppies, the athletes, this group and that group, and where do I fit in? She wanted to know who she was and where am I fitting in on this. So we need to be able to support them through that, but also be willing as a parent to take a step back and let them find this on their own. That's really hard, because you got a kid that you were the protector, and now all of a sudden they say they don't want you as a protector, but they still want that security, that they can know that they can come home and this is safe.
That's good.
That as they enter into the bigs, the high school age, and they start focusing more on the question of, why am I here? What is my purpose here? Maybe they found a little bit of their identity. Some of them are still struggling with that, obviously, but maybe they found a little bit more who they are. Maybe I'm this is who I am. This is my skill set. I'm beginning to see how I'm created. I'm beginning to see the gifts and the talents and the skills and the attributes I have. Maybe I found my tribe. Maybe my friends, I've got who I'm supposed to hang out with. But now they want to know, why are they here? Well, so what am I supposed to do? That's the question they need to have maybe not a clear answer, but at least an idea of as they're approaching college. Otherwise, they're going to be floundering around in college. And that's why we have so many graduating from college now who still don't know what they want to do career-wise. They've wasted 4 years of school, wasted a ton of money, and they still don't know what they're going to do. So as they're guiding through, we need to be able to get them. Now, all children do not progress at the same rate. So some are listening and saying, hey, I got a senior or a freshman in college, and they're still struggling with their identity. They don't know who they are, or they still haven't found their people yet. There's nothing inherently wrong. You don't have a defective child. You didn't do a bad job as the parent. Their journey may be different.
Right.
As the speaker and author Andy Andrews says, parents need, I'll paraphrase the way he said this, is parents need to learn that they're not raising children, they're raising future adults.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great point.
And we need to create someone, and we need to work on someone that we can live with as an adult, not someone that we can enjoy as a child. I know we all want to have fun with the kids, have the Instagram perfect kids, the Facebook post perfect family, but a little bit of trouble for their teen years is worth it if you've got 30 plus years of an adult child that you not only love but you like, and respect. So
That's so
I heard
good.
someone recently tell me that parents first love their children, then they'll start to like their children as they get older. And then the last point is they love, like, and respect their children as adults.
Whoa, whoa, that's great. That's wisdom right there. I've never thought about that. That's powerful. Hey, one question, especially for maybe, our friends and families that are from a blended situation. How do blended family dynamics come into play here with the youth? I mean, because like when I inherited four bonus boys, I wasn't their dad and I didn't want to replace their dad, but I wanted to add to their dad. And you got all these other dynamics too. That's just an example. But have you seen anything that kind of addresses that typical situation in the youth that you deal with? Those family dynamics that might not be from nuclear situations that are either common or something that you see in dealing with them.
Well, Greg, obviously you'll be much more familiar with this, but I'll take it back to those three issues that we talked about first.
Yeah, good.
And that children who have gone through the split up of their original family, if they are old enough to consciously have memories and experiences with that, it is going to have some kind of effect on their self-image.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any way around that at all. They're going to feel that. I have met many families. A great friend of mine, actually, who's in a very similar blended family where he had three and his second wife had three, and they merged them together. That they were very conscious on trying to build that family and work on that. You guys did nothing to cause the situation we're in.
Absolutely.
And take them to that love, like, respect stage as well, and blend them together in that. So it's going to affect their self-image in there. It could also affect their ability to form a positive relationships because they're going to be jaded somewhat, or it could have caused some, I hate to use the word trauma, but that may be the word we need to use.
Okay. Yeah.
That it caused some trauma so that they are very reluctant to trust others. My wife comes from a family situation where her parents split up when she was in middle school, and she freely admits it was a difficult process to realize that there were people who did not view things like her mom and dad did, or to trust as much. So connecting with people may be a part, and it could delay. What is my purpose? Trying to find their purpose in life. Why am I here? Just for the simple fact of they're still dealing with those other things. Who am I in this whole thing?
Absolutely. Good.
And how's it work? And how do I find the right kind of people that I want to go into? And that's why so often, it's not always the case, but we do see children that have come from divorced families sometimes have those early struggles, and they get associated with groups of youth that they would not, neither one of their parents would want them to be a part of. And it's because they're struggling, trying to figure out who they are and how does this work and who do I trust? And I mean, all those dynamics that can happen between the parents, and that can affect it as well. So
thanks. That's good. All right, I got two more questions, and buckle your seatbelt, okay? They're not surfacey questions, okay? In fact, for everybody's listening, I asked James, we kind of talked about a few lists of, we'll ask this or ask that. And James gave me confirmation that these last two, it's okay to ask. And so we feel like the Lord wants us to go there. So here's the first one: the church. Is it relevant today? Is it obsolete? We've been wounded by church members and spiritual figures, and there's a lot of evil in the world, and so it's like, I'm done with that, or I don't want to go there, or I'm going to figure it out. I mean, talk from the church and the youth, Is it even relevant today? Is it not relevant today? What do you do with it today? Talk about that for a second.
Well, I believe that first, for those who are people of faith, that passing on their faith, the tenets of their relationship with Christ, first happens in the family. I mean, we are taught that,
Yeah.
that we are to go alongside them, that we're to teach them, as we walk with them, as we're in the home, in every aspect of it. And that church is never to replace that at all, but it's to supplement that. But
Good.
the church atmosphere, church youth group, the whole gives them a signal that they're a part of something big, that they're a part of something that is eternal, that is magnificent, that is great, that they're part of God's family, and they see these relationships in there. And if parents are open and they're sincere and they have conversations with them, they can address the pitfalls of people, that we're not perfect people, that's why we come together to grow together so that we can be more Christ-like in our attitudes and more Christ-like in our relevance. So church is extremely important from that regards. And when we go back to the associations, disassociations, hopefully it's a place that they can find the associations we need. I said, I hope we can.
Right.
Because we all hear the wonderful, and somewhat funny stories of youth groups that are just a little bit, just a little bit wild and stuff. So,
right.
I was the deacon's child growing up, and one of my best friends was our pastor's child. And there was always a joke about the two worst kids in the church are the deacon's child and the pastor's child, which we weren't bad kids, but we were mischievous.
Yeah.
But being able to see that there are others that share your beliefs, that share your values, that share the tenets of the faith that you hold to be true, that's important.
Right. Right.
That's important for them to kind of build that foundation. So as they're launched into the world, they realized there's others like me.
Yep.
So I believe it's very, very, very important to connect those together so that they can have those friendships.
Yeah.
With an ultimate goal that some of those friends may be who they go to if they're having problems.
That's right.
Because as they grow, the bigs especially, they stop listening to they stop asking their parents for advice. They don't stop listening to you. They never stop listening to you. Don't ever think that they don't listen to you. They do. They just stop asking you.
Okay.
They always are listening, or they're always listening to your actions too.
Yeah. That's good.
But they start asking for their friends, and hopefully those associations in the church can give them a place that they can go to that other folks can provide some input as well.
All right. Thanks on that. This last one's a tough one. Suicide. Kids, well, not just kids, even adults, but we're talking today, obviously, about the youth and loneliness, mental health issues. My life's, they're going to end it. I mean, go there and just share, if you would, from your heart, whatever comes to mind that our listeners could listen and take from that.
Well, we need to be aware that it is a topic that needs to have open conversations about. I do not want parents to think that I do not want to have this conversation with my child because I might put an idea in their head. Let me tell you and confirm with you, you're not going to put an idea in their head that's not already there. So if they're already contemplating that, don't be afraid that you're going to cause them to start contemplating that. I think they're already thinking of it. By opening that conversation, you're going to give them an outlet to share and give them that safe space for them to maybe express some feelings. Suicide and loneliness is a topic that is on the rise in many stats. I mean, recently the Centers for Disease Control put out a study where they interviewed youth in late 2001, and one of the stats that they saw that they came up with is almost 20%. It was like 19.1, I believe, or 18.1, one of those two, but about 1 in 5, close to 1 in 5 young people in the second half of 2021 contemplated suicide, thought seriously about suicide. 1 out of every 5.
Wow.
So in an average class size at school is somewhere around 20 to 25. You're looking 4 or 5 kids in that class that has seriously thought about that. Parents are naive if they think that, well, we're immune from that. My kids are insulated from that. We go to church. We're a good family. Everything's going well. They love it. There's still thoughts about those things. And so those discussions need to happen. They need to know their worth as an individual, their worth in Christ. They need to know that there's places that they can go and share and they can talk to folks about and they can help them go through this. So in regards to suicide, you need to have those conversations. Craig, this personally happened in our area, in that last year in the middle school that my youngest goes to, a girl a grade higher than her, she committed suicide early this past year, 2023. And one of the things that rose out of this is everybody was like, we never knew there was a problem. We never knew. And I'm not saying that was the fault of the parents or the fault of anybody. But what I would encourage them, and I hope people realize out of this, is we need to be proactive in those conversations just to give them an opportunity to share. Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How are things going here?
Good.
Are you feeling okay?
Yeah.
Asking them those open-ended questions. Is there any pressures that you feel that we as your parents are putting on you that are just causing you to feel more isolated or lonely? Because suicide is a result of someone feeling like, I am alone.
Yeah.
I don't have an out. There's no one to help me. Mm-hmm. No one can help me. And those are all happening when
good.
And there's a whole litany of issues and stuff. So.
This has been such rich content. I thank you again for just opening up your heart and sharing your wisdom and experience. If people want to find out more about Generation Youth and you, how would they find you as we wrap up and close? Give us your, all the contact info.
Well, there's 2 different sites that they can go to for us. If they want to find about generally our programs and everything we do, they can go back to our original URL, our original website, Generation Ziglar, Ziglar, generationziglar.com. If they go there, they'll find out all the information. They'll have links to our podcast, to our blogs, links to the books that we've written, Tomorrow's Youth is written about those issues that we're just talking about. And it'll have links to some of the programs we have. If they're specifically wanting to know about youth coaching, they can go to generation-youth.com, generation-youth.com. If they go there, they'll find out more information about the coaching programs that we have, the classes that we offer, how we can help them. We've had parents come through our youth life coaching certification program who never have any intention of coaching youth in an organized thing. But he came through, a man named Seth came through the very first class, had 6 children. On the last day, he says, I will only want to coach these 6. And if I can coach these 6 to be the adults that I want them to be, then this was totally worth it.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a advanced parents training on steroids.
Yeah. That's great. James, thank you so much for this today. Everybody, thank you again for listening in. Pray that today's content can encourage you, your family, and obviously pass it on. You may have thought of somebody that, man, they would love to listen to this. Just share it. Obviously, Gene, I want to say thank you. God bless you guys until we talk again. Bye.